Hello friends, I am glad to see you again. Today I will tell you about a homeowners association that does not want me to use my boat. It started on a humid Saturday in May. I had the day off, the wind was steady out of the southwest, and my fiberglass sloop, Sparrow, begged to stretch her canvas. I rolled the trailer down the shared gravel launch at the community park, stepped the mast, and shoved off. A couple of neighbors waved from paddleboards. Kids tossed breadcrumbs to ducks, nothing controversial, until a red golf cart squealed to the shoreline like a pint-sized fire truck. Enter Darla, the HOA president. Darla's the sort of person who files noise complaints when the crickets forget the curfew printed in the bylaws. She jabbed a rhinestone-studded finger toward me, shrieking that powered vessels were banned. I pointed to the silent sails overhead. She pivoted. Now sailing was banned, too. New rule. Never mind that Driftwood Lake is actually a public water of the state, according to the county assessor's GIS map and a dusty statute I'd already read. Darla promised, with the moral fury of a cartoon Grand Inquisitor, that I'd regret defying the community. I laughed it off, thinking she'd cool down. Big mistake. By the time I tacked back toward shore an hour later, 2 sheriff's deputies were waiting at the dock. Deputy Morales greeted me politely. His partner, Deputy Finch, eyed Darla's printed packet of bylaws as though it were the Constitution. Morales asked for my ID, registration, and proof the boat was mine. I handed over everything. He flipped through and frowned when he reached the line that said, "Vessel exempt from state titling, non-motorized." Darla barked that our HOA rules overrode all that. Morales cleared his throat. "Ma'am, a homeowner's covenant can't cancel state law." Darla puffed up. "Of course, we pay dues for it." Except that wasn't remotely true. The county park on the North Shore, open to the public since 1952, touches every molecule of water I'd just sailed on. Public water means public right of navigation. Morales knew it, Finch knew it, and I definitely knew it. Darla, meanwhile, overplayed her hand and doubled down. She insisted Sparrow be trailered and impounded as a deterrent. Finch finally caved to her theatrics and wrote me a citation for unauthorized vessel on private amenity. I signed under protest. Morales whispered, "Fight it in court, Doc. This won't stick." Then they made me watch as a municipal tow truck, called in preemptively by Darla, yanked Sparrow onto a flatbed meant for sedans. My mast bent like a wet noodle. Darla clapped. "If you think I went inside to sulk, you've never met an ER doctor running on nothing but cold brew and righteous anger. Instead, I cracked open my laptop, pulled up Westlaw, perks of having a lawyer sister named Juniper, and started plotting the mother of all comebacks. Plotline 1. Prove the HOA had zero jurisdiction over a public lake. Plotline 2. Recover damages for the mangled mast and the lost weekend regatta I'd already paid entry fees for. Plotline 3. Expose Darla's pattern of harassing anyone who didn't fit her Stepford template and get her booted from office. Plotline 4. Just for flair. Uncover how the HOA board had been quietly diverting maintenance funds into a beautification slush fund that benefited Darla's brother's landscaping company. By Monday morning, I had a plan, a mug of reheated coffee, and Juniper on speakerphone. She specializes in municipal law and relishes a good scrap with petty tyrants. She confirmed what I suspected. The HOA's power stopped at the shoreline. The lake's public status trumped any restrictive covenant. As for the deputies, they'd acted under color of authority, but without probable cause. A Fourth Amendment issue. "This could snowball nicely," Juniper mused. "You sure you want to play?" "Deal me in," I said. Step 1. Information gathering. I filed a public records request with the county clerk for any and all documents referencing Driftwood Lake. Easements, plat maps, historical deeds. I asked the sheriff's office for body cam footage and dispatch logs from that Saturday. I requested the HOA's financial statements under the state's Sunshine HOA Act. You'd be amazed how many boards forget those are discoverable. Step 2. Allies. Turns out I wasn't the only target of Darla's micromanagement. My next-door neighbor, Eli, a retired Coast Guard bosun, had been fined for flying the American flag on a pole taller than the prescribed 6 feet. 2 blocks over, a single mom named Coral got dinged for chalk art on her driveway. There was even a beekeeper, Milo, who'd been ordered to relocate his airborne livestock. We formed an ad hoc coalition on my porch, sharing violation letters like baseball cards. Eli brewed strong tea. Milo brought honey in tiny mason jars. Coral drafted a petition for a special meeting to recall the board. We hit the required 20% signature threshold in 36 hours, Meanwhile, Juniper prepared a demand letter to the HOA's insurance carrier, itemizing my damages: $2,300 for mast replacement, $450 tow fee, $125 regatta refund, and $5,000 for emotional distress. Her idea. She cited state statutes, case law, and the HOA's own governing documents. The gist? Pay up or face litigation plus attorney's fees. We FedEx-ed copies to every board member. Darla called me within an hour, voice quivering with faux civility, proposing we settle this amicably. I told her the amicable window closed the moment she applauded a tow truck. She hung up in a huff. That's when the anonymous letters started. 3 nights later, I found a plain envelope in my mailbox, no stamp, containing a blurry cell phone photo of Sparrow beached and battered, scrawled caption, "Stay off our lake, or next time we scuttle her." Milo received one depicting smashed beehives. Eli's envelope showed a scorched flag. Somebody was threatening us. We filed police reports. Juniper tacked on claims of intimidation and potential civil conspiracy. Deputy Morales swung by my place off duty. He admitted the sheriff's office was uneasy. HOA disputes escalate quickly, and there'd been chatter of vigilante lake patrols. Morales advised installing cameras and motion lights. I thanked him and asked, "Off the record, what's your read on Darla?" He smirked. "Some folks run for HOA to feel big. She feels huge. But the county attorney already flagged the citation Finch wrote. Expect that to go away." Sure enough, a week later the citation was voided in the interest of justice. Sparrow, however, remained crumpled at the impound lot, and Darla, sensing public opinion turning, launched a propaganda blitz. Door-to-door flyers claiming sailboats shed lead paint into the water and endanger swimmers with sharp keels. She cited zero evidence. Then Coral uncovered a bombshell. Darla's husband Grant owned stock in a startup pushing paddle-powered rental swans for resort lakes. If sailing were banned, the HOA might contract rentals as a revenue stream. Motive established. Our recall meeting was set for the first Thursday in June. Darla tried delaying it, citing audit season, but the bylaws locked the clock at 30 days. She also floated a counter-petition to censure me for inciting discord, yet couldn't muster the signatures. The neighborhood grapevine buzzed louder than cicadas. While that storm brewed, I pursued Plotline 4. The financial statements arrived, and Juniper highlighted a glaring irregularity. $18,000 paid over 12 months to Quality Greens LLC for shoreline enhancement. Problem: the lake shoreline is county property. The HOA has no maintenance duties there. A quick search showed Quality Greens' registered agent was Grant's college roommate. Same mailing address as Darla's in-laws. Classic self-dealing. Juniper grinned. "We've got them on breach of fiduciary duty and maybe wire fraud if the feds get interested." We compiled a dossier thicker than my old anatomy textbook. Photos, receipts, neighbor affidavits, the public lake statute, threatening letters, financial irregularities. We printed everything twice. One for the recall meeting, one for the local newspaper's investigative desk, just in case. The night before the meeting, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Sparrow's mast bending under the tow strap, the deputy's hesitant expressions, Darla's smug clap. I'd faced gunshot wounds, heart attacks, chainsaw lacerations at work, but nothing spikes blood pressure like suburban politics. Still, justice was on deck, and I was ready to trim the sails and run with the wind. The clubhouse smelled like lemon oil and panic. Darla had scheduled the recall meeting for 7 p.m., figuring most residents would still be commuting. My coalition countered with free pizza and iced tea starting at 6. Nothing spikes turnout like carbs and gossip. By 5:30, the parking lot already overflowed. Pickup trucks and soccer mom minivans lined the access road, their owners carrying lawn chairs because the HOA only budgeted 20 metal folding seats. Eli set up a portable flag behind the sign-in table. Standard height, just to needle Darla. Coral stacked clipboards for latecomers to add their names to the recall petition, in case the board tried to challenge quorum. Milo draped sample honey jars across a display marked Local Bees HOA Fees. Someone, still anonymous, had taped Darla's anti-sailing flyer on the clubhouse door with a big red X through it. Mood. Festive but electric, like a summer thunderhead ready to crack. Darla arrived at 6:48 in a starched pantsuit the color of caution tape, flanked by board members Trent and Sherry. She hauled a portable amplifier and a 3-ring binder thicker than a phone book. The moment she crossed the threshold, she tried to confiscate our pizza as Outside food not reserved through the facility calendar. The crowd laughed. Trent unplugged the warmer anyway. Coral calmly produced a copy of the rental policy showing no such restriction. Darla hissed, but the timer overhead blinked to 7 o'clock, and she had to gavel in. She started with the Pledge of Allegiance, awkward because Eli's flagpole exceeded her 6-foot rule by a good 2 feet. People chuckled. Even Deputy Morales, positioned quietly at the exit for crowd control, bit his lip to keep from grinning. Darla launched into a filibuster about protecting property values. She flipped through PowerPoint slides full of alarming graphs that lacked axis labels. One showed a cartoon sailboat sinking a child's rubber duck. Another claimed home prices dropped 15% when hazardous nautical activity occurred within community sightlines. Sherry advanced the slides, nodding like a bobblehead. When Darla tried to skip member comments, Juniper, present via Zoom on a projector screen, politely cited Section 4.3 of the bylaws, mandatory open forum before any vote. She suggested the board waive reading of the minutes to save time. Darla's jaw twitched, but she bowed to the virtual attorney in the room. I stepped to the microphone. "I'm here because my legally permitted sailboat was impounded at this board's direction," I began. I explained the public status of Driftwood Lake, cited the state statute, and showed a blown-up map from the county GIS website with the word public stamped in red. "Our HOA jurisdiction stops at the lot lines," I said. "Everything wet is beyond your reach." Eli followed, recounting how Darla fined him $50 per day until he lowered his flag, and how the fine mysteriously vanished after he threatened media coverage. Coral spoke next about chalk art fines and the letters her 8-year-old cried over. Milo described the relocate your airborne livestock order that would have cost him his entire apiary, testimony stacked like bricks in a seawall. Then Juniper shared her screen, copies of checks to Quality Greens LLC, home improvement invoices that matched line by line with Grant's Venmo screenshots bragging about easy HOA cash, and the state corporate filing linking the landscaper to Darla's in-laws' address. Gasps rippled across the room. Trent wiped his forehead. Sherry avoided eye contact. Darla tried a desperation pivot. "These so-called records are taken out of context. A professional audit is underway." She waved her binder. "And furthermore, certain agitators have jeopardized community harmony." Cue plot twist. Lila, a soft-spoken retiree who'd stayed neutral until now, rolled up in her mobility scooter and held high a clear plastic bag. Inside sat 5 anonymous threat letters, identical handwriting to ours. She'd taken them to a private handwriting analyst. The report, notarized, concluded with probable author, Darla. Lila's voice trembled. "You told me you'd take care of my stray cats if I didn't stop feeding them. That was you, wasn't it?" Silence thickened like fog. Darla's face flickered between 50 shades of panic. Trent muttered, "I'm done," and walked out. Sherry followed, almost tripping over the amplifier cord. Juniper cleared her throat. "Given the fiduciary concerns, I move we table further discussion and proceed directly to the recall vote." Someone shouted, "Second!" From there, parliamentary procedure turned into a freight train nobody could stop. Ballots, pre-printed, sequentially numbered, stored in a locking box, were handed out to every homeowner of record present. Coral and Morales acted as neutral counters while Juniper watched via camera. Darla attempted one last stall tactic. She called 911, claiming we were illegally seizing private association assets. Morales, still on off-duty detail, answered the radio and calmly reported no crime in progress. Dispatch closed the call. Darla's phone slipped from her hand. Counting took 15 minutes. Result 142 to 19 in favor of recall. Gasps turned into applause. Someone popped a can of seltzer. No alcohol on premises per rule. We weren't giving Darla a technicality. Coral announced the numbers on the PA system Darla had brought. Morales escorted Darla outside so she could collect herself. Per bylaws, the recall created immediate vacancies. Our coalition had already found willing volunteers. Lila for president. "You need someone who's seen every trick in the book," she winked. "Milo for treasurer. I've kept bees alive through winter, books are easier." And Eli for secretary because he types 80 WPM. The slate passed by voice vote. New board sworn in, gavel fell, meeting adjourned at 8:37 p.m. Pizza reheated nicely. But our story wasn't done. Victory in Clubhouse Court is nice. Real restitution requires paperwork. The following Monday, the new board's first act was authorizing Juniper to negotiate with the HOA's insurance to settle my claim. Strange thing. The insurer soon discovered Darla had failed to disclose the quality greens conflict during yearly ethics certifications. That triggered a coverage denial for her actions, meaning Darla was personally on the hook. She received the news, according to neighborhood rumor, while ordering a venti iced latte. The barista remembers a woman in a caution tape pantsuit nearly fainting. Meanwhile, Juniper filed a civil complaint in small claims court for the boat damage plus costs. Darla didn't appear at the first hearing, claiming a medical emergency. The judge gave her one continuance. Second hearing, she arrived with a printout of Wikipedia pages about riparian rights and community estoppel. The judge, unimpressed, entered a default judgment in my favor, $7,875 plus court fees and 6% post-judgment interest. Darla's expression when the gavel fell could have curdled oat milk, but monetary awards don't rebuild masts. Sparrow's manufacturer quoted a 12-week lead time. Eli volunteered his workshop and craftsmanship. Over 6 twilight evenings, we spliced new rigging, laminated fiberglass, and stepped a gleaming aluminum spar donated by a local sailing club after they heard my tale on a boating podcast. Sparrow looked better than factory new. Eli carved a tiny brass plaque at the helm. "She who is steadfast rides any storm." Plotline twist: while we repaired, the county environmental office dropped by. They'd received an anonymous tip, let's call it moral karma, about unauthorized herbicide along the lake's south bank. A spill had killed off cattails, exactly where Quality Greens had billed shoreline enhancement. Enforcement officers collected soil samples. Fines for illegal pesticide application can hit 5 figures. Grant's name surfaced on the permits. He'd refused to pay for a licensed applicator, of course. I didn't gloat much. Then came the criminal wrinkle. Those threat letters? Forensics matched printer toner to a machine registered to Darla's home office warranty. The county prosecutor filed misdemeanor counts of harassment. Deputies served her a summons at dawn. Neighbors reported she was still in a caution tape bathrobe. Through July and August, Driftwood Lake transformed. The new board rescinded the no sailing resolution, published transparent budgets, and scheduled community movie nights on the shore. Kids raced cardboard boat regattas. Coral chalk-painted hopscotch along the sidewalk. Milo hosted a honey-tasting booth and accidentally inspired a pollinator garden on the clubhouse lawn. Late August, Sparrow and I entered the county's Labor Day Sailing Derby, a 10-mile triangle course upwind, reach, and run. On race day, the wind clocked a steady 12 knots, sun bright, lake flecked with whitecaps like scattered confetti. Eli crewed. Coral filmed from a borrowed kayak. Milo flew a drone for overhead shots. As we crossed the start line, I noticed a familiar red golf cart at the public pier. Darla stood beside it, arms folded, as though sheer willpower could halt our momentum. But the only official on site was Deputy Morales, now liaison for the event. He waved us past. Halfway through the second leg, Sparrow hummed. The new mast flexed but held firm. We rounded the final buoy in 4th place, but caught a gust on the downwind run. Eli trimmed the whisker pole perfectly. Sparrow surfed a rolling wave and stole the lead. We finished first by 30 seconds. Cheers echoed across the water. Coral's camera caught the moment Darla's jaw dropped. Back at the dock, the race committee awarded us a silver cup. It wasn't huge, polished tin really, but the engraving read, "Labor Day Derby Champion, Sparrow Skipper, Determination." I raised it high. The crowd applauded. Darla retreated to her golf cart and sputtered away in a swirl of dusty resentment. Yet poetic justice loves an encore. 2 weeks later, a certified letter from the IRS arrived at Darla and Grant's address. Copies leaked to the new board because of a subpoena for financial records. Quality Greens LLC had underreported income and taken improper deductions for shoreline consulting. Auditors requested clarification of $18,000 in deposits flagged by our earlier dossier. Grant allegedly tried to blame everything on volunteer reimbursements. The IRS doesn't recognize creative landscaping as charity. A lien notice followed. Meanwhile, the county planning office slapped a stop work order on Grant's paddle swan storage shed. Built without permits, too close to the riparian buffer. When code enforcement came to padlock the doors, Milo's bees were happily pollinating sunflowers planted by the Children's Garden Club, blocking easy machine access. The official waited patiently while the bees finished their rounds. By then, local reporters arrived, camera crews rolling, capturing Darla attempting to argue that bees aren't citizens. The clip went mildly viral under the headline, HOA queen throws shade at pollinators. Our neighborhood morale soared. People painted kayaks, sewed signal flags, dusted off forgotten patio furniture. The new board even rewrote the rules to cap fines at reasonable amounts and require a 2/3 vote for any amenity closure. Transparency meetings streamed online. Attendance stayed high because Milo shipped complimentary honey sticks to every mailbox. I still had one more act in mind, something quiet but meaningful. Remember that county park on the North Shore? Its boat ramp was cracked, the dock missing planks. I donated half my judgment payout, after covering boat repairs and pizza expenses, to the Parks Foundation earmarked for ramp reconstruction. The donation plaque will read, "Freedom on the water belongs to everyone." Eli chipped in. Coral organized a kids' artwork fundraiser, and Milo sold a Justice blend of clover and wildflower honey. The ramp rebuild begins this fall. Darla? She moved out in October according to a for sale by owner sign that faded in her front yard. Rumor says she relocated to a condo complex with no lake access and strict architectural controls. She'll fit right in. The IRS lien followed her. On a crisp November morning, I took Sparrow out alone. The sun scraped gold across glassy water. As I sheeted in, the sail filled with a sound like distant applause. Far down the shore, new neighbors waved. I waved back, heart light. The lake belonged to everyone again and always had. I rounded the point, felt the breeze on my face, and grinned. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a courtroom win or a check in the mail. Sometimes it's simply hoisting a repaired mast, carving a wake through calm water, and knowing the bullies lost the only thing they truly crave: control. And that, friends, was a lesson Darla will never forget. Winter crept up on Driftwood Lake so gently we barely noticed the oaks go bald. One day we were carving pumpkins. The next, frost painted the docks like powdered sugar. Sparrow slept on her trailer beside my garage, mast unstepped, hull swaddled in a blue tarp that billowed in the wind like a quiet lung. I figured the season finale had already played out. Darla vanquished, lake liberated, credits rolling. But real life isn't a neat 3-act movie. Sometimes there's a hidden scene after the fade to black, and sometimes the villain refuses to stay off stage. December 1st, a certified letter arrived on thick linen paper that looked too fancy for bad news. Inside, a summons for a deposition in State versus Darla. An investigation I hadn't known reached the Attorney General's office. Turns out our county prosecutor kicked the harassment file up the ladder after discovering Darla mailed those threat letters across state lines to her snowbird cousin in Arizona, then had them remailed back to avoid local postmarks. Congratulations, she'd accidentally graduated the case from misdemeanor intimidation to potential federal mail fraud. Juniper called me that night. "They'll want you as a fact witness," she said. "Nothing scary, just tell the truth." She sounded almost cheerful. Also, heads up, the AG's Financial Crimes Unit uncovered a bit more than angry letters. "A bit more?" I repeated. "Try forged invoices, kickbacks, and an unreported LLC in Delaware. Grant's Paddle Swan scheme wasn't the only shell company. Darla's been funneling HOA dues into at least 3 side hustles." I whistled. "How bad is it? If the numbers stick, we're talking felony grand theft and wire fraud counts. Restitution could hit 6 figures, Juniper said. "Which means she'll fight like a cornered raccoon." Plotline 5 ignited the day I walked into a nondescript conference room in the Regional Justice Center. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A court reporter sat at one end, headset on, fingers poised. Across from me, Darla's new attorney, sleek suit, polished shoes, hair combed so perfectly it looked airbrushed, clicked a pen and called the proceeding to order. "State your name for the record." I complied and the dance began. He pressed, "Had I ever antagonized Darla? Did I maybe forge those letters myself for sympathy? Had I colluded with Juniper to engineer a takeover?" I answered calmly, truthfully, No, and are you kidding me?" Juniper, present as counsel for me, objected whenever the questions went fishing. The AG's lead investigator, a woman named Special Agent Kerrigan, watched silently, eyes like a hawk. After 2 hours, they had my whole timeline: the sale, the tow truck, the threats, the recall. Kerrigan thanked me, then dropped a bombshell I wasn't expecting. "Doctor, did you know your mast wasn't the only thing sabotaged that night?" I frowned. She slid a photo across the table. Coral's chalk bucket crushed under the clubhouse crawl space. Another. Eli's flagpole stump, hacksawed 3 inches below ground. Milo's hive frames cracked. All after our recall, but before Darla's arrest. The state alleged Darla paid a teenager $50 a hit. My stomach clenched. Sparrow had been lucky. Kerrigan added, "Don't worry, the kid flipped. He wore a wire when Darla bragged she could teach them all to obey. It's airtight. Airtight, but unsettling." I drove home replaying the pictures in my head, snow dots swirling in the headlights. Justice was coming, sure, but the lake community felt a little less sleepy than before. January thaw slipped across the region, turning the frozen crust into fog. The new board proposed a winter lights festival. Bonfires beside the water, a chili cook-off, an ice sculpture contest, to raise repair funds for the park ramp. Spirits needed lifting. Planning meetings took place in my dining room, where Sparrow's mainsail served as an improvised tablecloth. Coral-headed decorations. Milo volunteered beeswax candles. Eli promised a color guard routine for opening night. Enter complication. We needed county permits, including a safety sign-off from the Lake Authority, an obscure bureaucratic body that rarely noticed us. They reviewed everything from fireworks to goose control. When Coral submitted forms, the authority flagged my name as involved in ongoing litigation regarding navigable waters. They threatened to stall approval until liability questions cleared. That smelled like someone whispering behind scenes. Juniper dug through recent public records logs. She found an email from Grant, sent 3 days earlier, urging the authority to deny our permit because boat extremists intend to stage dangerous sail demonstrations on a fragile ice surface. Boat extremists? Sparrow has no ice blades, but facts never slowed Grant. Juniper fired back a memorandum citing the First Amendment right to assemble, our insurance binder, and a statement from the county sheriff describing the event as low risk. The authority caved, but we lost a week and a half, forcing a scramble. In the scramble, I discovered something odd. Sparrow's tarp lay half off, even though I'd cinched every grommet. Underneath, the new aluminum mast displayed a series of fresh scratches, as if someone ran fine grit sandpaper up and down. Cosmetic, but menacing. No footprints in the snow. Our security lights flick on at deer. The message was clear. Someone still held a grudge. Eli and I set trail cameras facing my driveway and the dock path. We didn't have to wait long. 2 nights later, a trail cam caught a lanky figure prying Milo's hive shed. Deputies tracked Prince to a sedan registered to Grant's cousin Brett, the dropout bragging he'd be VP of Paddle Swans. Charged with trespass, he bailed at dawn, hurried to Darla's condo, and muttered no comment while she slammed the door. TV crews shredded what was left of their image. Sabotage couldn't stop the Winter Lights Festival. On a Bluebird Saturday, lanterns spanned a pop-up rink where neon-hatted kids skated. Milo's candles perfumed the air. Coral painted snowship murals. My Ancho Coco chili lured 300 guests, double our HOA, finishing the ramp fund before sunset. At dusk, Eli, in dress blues, raised an 8-foot flagpole, freshly approved rule, and the anthem echoed. Deputy Morales tapped me. Bad guys don't quit. A phone filmer darted, slipped, and face-planted. Brett again live streaming to HOA Truth Defenders. More charges followed. Grant and Darla disowned him. Nobody bought it. March brought depositions. Darla pled the fifth 83 times. Grant blamed rogue software. The IRS scoffed. Meanwhile, Special Agent Kerrigan revealed the threat letters matched Darla's home printer, turning harassment into mail fraud and scaring off her last sympathizers. Indictments landed for fraud, theft, and conspiracy. Driftwood Lake thrived. Coral launched dock murals. Milo's pollinator garden spread. New President Lila inked a paddleboard revenue split. No swans. I revarnished Sparrow's tiller and sewed a Sparrow spinnaker. Reminder that freedom needs upkeep. Then the civil suit. An audit showed $47,400 in fines Darla pocketed. 32 owners sued under the Consumer Protection Act, Juniper pro bono. Neighbors who once waved politely now knocked on doors collecting statements. By month's end, every porch displayed a teal ribbon for fairness. Early rulings crushed Darla's dismissal motion. Word was her war chest was emptying fast. May hearings buzzed. I testified about smashed masts and sleepless nights. Defense hinted exaggeration. Security video, therapist notes, and footage of Brett's wipeout ended that. Outside, Darla passed in a drab coat. Pity flickered. Then I recalled her applause as my boat was hauled. She looked away. Summer delivered lemonade and a rebuilt ramp with solar lights. Kids busted a tow truck piñata. Sparrow's sails snapped. Lila, jittery but eager, stepped aboard and whispered, It feels like flying. We slipped past a new sign. Public waters, enjoy responsibly. No deputies, just breeze. Late July, Darla chose a bench trial. Evidence poured in. Handwriting experts, fake invoices, damning texts. Verdict, guilty on 7 counts. Bond revoked, cuffs clicked, helicopters filmed justice. September sentencing packed the room. Darla blamed stress. The judge called it greed. Gave her 18 months plus $112,600 restitution and long probation. Reporters asked the takeaway. Bullies fill space, we surrender, I said. Don't. Autumn's first snap rattled acorns. Darla entered prison. Grant liquidated the Swan Dream. Quality Greens dissolved. Our newsletter, now The Current, promoted movie nights and Milo's Bee Corner. Sales and cider Sundays saw neighbors raft up for cinnamon donuts, guarding a lake that always belonged to everyone. Winter lights returned the next year brighter. Drone footage of skaters traced a glowing heart around the bonfire, a symbol our HOA couldn't patent. Restitution funded sailing scholarships, veterans therapy, art supplies, and a pollinator meadow. On a December night with casseroles and karaoke, Lila toasted community, the safest harbor. Walking home, I paused on the dock and vowed, tyranny won't anchor here again. Friends, thank you. See you soon.